Okay, you guys, I have some updates on the Poshmark Promoted Closets beta situation. Your girl got access, so I have been able to test out this new software for the last like 48 hours, and I have some info to share with you guys. I know a lot of you guys were curious about how it was going to work, and I will say that this is a beta program, so they are going to be making updates. They are listening to feedback, listening to recommendations on changes that they should make in the software. So things that I say right now may not be valid a week from now, or may not be valid by the time that this is kind of rolled out to the general public. I just kind of thought I would walk you guys through the whole beta process and just what my initial thoughts were. Obviously, I'm keeping it real, I'm keeping it honest. If you guys missed my last video where I was really showing my initial thoughts on the whole thing, I will link that up above. I will say that some of my opinions have changed. Obviously, I am like actually trying out the software now, so a lot of my questions have been answered. There are still definitely questions that I have that I'm hoping will be answered soon, but I will say it is okay to change your mind. I've done it many times, and I don't want anybody to be like, oh, you said that you were so against it and now you're doing it. It's like, well, I didn't have information. I have that information now, so I'm reevaluating my thoughts and my perspectives. And I will say I'm not like 100% happy about this still. I still think that there's a lot of work to be made, but they are, I don't know. I still think it could be helpful for some people, but again, we'll just kind of see what updates they make along the way. I wanted to share with you guys what happened with my closet in the first 24 hours of using the beta program, and I thought maybe in like a week I'll give you guys an update and see if there's changes and all of that. There are 4 weeks of the beta testing. I'm not sure if I said that already, so I thought I would kind of maybe make 4 different videos showing how it has progressed along the way. For those of you guys who may not know what I'm talking about, Poshmark announced that they're going to be trying promoted closets. So the way that promoted closet is going to work is not going to be like the way that eBay is, where you can choose which listings you want to be promoted, you choose what percentage of promotion you want, you know exactly how much you're gonna pay for an item on eBay if it sells through promoted listings. Unfortunately, that's not the case for Poshmark. With Poshmark, you set a budget that you are willing to spend for the week, and then Poshmark takes that budget and promotes certain listings depending on what people are searching for and what listings you have that best match that search. Then you get charged depending on how many times somebody clicks your listing. This is kind of unfortunate, and some of the feedback that I've heard from other people who are in the beta program is that, you know, especially us as resellers, we click a lot of listings, and that doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna buy something. Maybe we're looking for comps. Maybe we're just shopping around. We're not necessarily going to buy these items, but we are going to click on them and look at the listings. And unfortunately, if you're promoting that listing, then you get charged for it just because somebody clicks on it. Another downfall is you don't get to choose which items get promoted. Poshmark's algorithm is kind of taking care of it, which in a sense could be great, because Poshmark algorithm, the Poshmark team, they know what people are searching for. They know what is, or at least I hope they know, what is going to sell and what should be promoted in order to sell. Poshmark ultimately is trying to make the most money, and they make their money off of whether or not we sell our items. So they obviously want us to sell our items. This could be good, but there's definitely little tweaks and stuff that they need, or maybe big tweaks that they need to make to really make this program work the most efficiently and give us the most return on our money. I've talked to a few people who have also been participating in the beta testing, and some people have said that it's been great, and other people are like totally complaining, saying that it's actually hurting their sales. I obviously can only speak from my own experience, and I've only had the beta going for about 48 hours. I pulled some of the data from the first 24 hours that it was live and running so that I can give you guys that feedback. In the first 24 hours, I received 212 clicks and I made 0 sales. And that cost me a total of $4.29. Now, I said this earlier, but I'm not paying for anything because I'm part of the beta testing, but if I had been paying, that's how much it would have cost. And when you calculate it down, it comes out to about 2 cents per click. But like I said, I made 0 sales. due to promoted listings. On the other hand, which I thought was really interesting, this could just be coincidence, but I had one of my best sales days of the whole year of 2023 yesterday when I started doing the beta testing. My total daily sales came out to about $702, and granted, one of those items was like the biggest sale I've ever made on Poshmark, and that was for $450. That sale specifically though, I had been talking to the buyer for a while. She had been thinking about purchasing, but she finally decided to make the commitment and purchase it this specific day. All of the other sales that I made were from offers. The hard thing about this is I don't know if those offers came because somebody saw my listing being promoted and so they went in and made an offer on it. Unfortunately, the way that the promoted closets dashboard is set up right now, it doesn't show any of those kinds of analytics. It only shows the total number of items sold, and you can't even see specifically which items sold through promoted listings. So that's definitely not helpful, and I'm hoping that Poshmark changes that in the future. I think they might just need more data, which they can get through beta testing in order to implement these different changes. But again, it's kind of one of those things where you have to do it in order to know what needs to happen. Like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I'm giving Poshmark like the benefit of the doubt that they're going to fix these sort of things, but as of right now, there isn't really hard evidence, you know, especially because we don't have anything to compare it to. We don't know how many clicks a regular item gets just from being shared as many times as we do a day. So is it really helping if we don't know the basis? Like, if we don't have anything to compare it to, how do we know that these are actually impressive numbers or that it's making a difference? One thing that they're adding soon, it says coming soon on the pattern, is impressions. And this is interesting because this is something that I see like on YouTube when I'm looking at my analytics. You see how many impressions your video makes, and in this case it would be your listings, meaning how many times does it show up on somebody's feed? How many times does a potential buyer see your item but maybe not click it? So maybe they're going through search, or it's showing up on Google, or it's showing up on somebody's feed. Those are all impressions, and then the clicks come from impressions. So you can kind of see a ratio between how many clicks are made versus how many impressions that item has made. Again, I don't know if this is going to be helpful if we don't know a comparison between these promoted listings versus when we just share our listings. In this highest sales day that I've had, like I said, a lot of the items that sold were offers from likers. And a couple comments that I saw in this group chat that we have with a bunch of people who are in the beta program is that since they have had their items start being promoted on Poshmark, they've noticed an increase in lowball offers, which I think is really, really funny. I've definitely noticed it, like people offering $5 on a $70 pair of jeans, or just like ridiculous stuff. And I get it, people get really upset when we get lowball offers. I've been there, I've definitely gotten heated before, but as of right now I kind of just decline and move on. If they're really serious about it, they'll come back, but if once I decline it, they know I'm not playing around. And this is kind of just how Poshmark has evolved over time. People definitely want a deal. People want to know that they are able to negotiate. That's the way that Poshmark is set up. There are make a deal days, there's offers to likers, there's discounted shipping. There are all of these things that have been set up for us so that we can negotiate and so that we can make deals. My first Posh Fest that I spoke at, I spoke on a panel for Masters of Negotiation. It was all about making deals with your buyers and taking advantage of the tools that Poshmark has to offer discounts and all of that. When we have these things like live shows or promoted sales, it definitely kind of goes against that idea of the negotiation factor of Poshmark. And so that's the confusing thing for me. It's like they're at total contrast with each other, the promoted listings and the sharing. It's like, well, they're kind of supposed to do the same thing. One is just free, and it's the same thing with like this idea of promoted listings. Like, we only really see a benefit from promoted listings if somebody outright buys that item. But how many times does somebody actually buy something outright? Because I know from my data, and if you guys saw my April sales recap, not a lot of my sales came from outright just click now, buy now purchases. Most of them were made from offers to likers. And so I would love to see some data in this promoted closets dashboard, which kind of shows if the promoted listings are helping to get us those offers, or if I should just continue with my Posher VA to send out offers to likers on the existing likers that it has. There are definitely people on both sides of whether promoted listings are going to be beneficial for us sellers or not. One of the arguments I see is that Poshmark is paying so much attention to this thing that nobody asked for, where there are all of these other issues and improvements that they could make to their program and to their app that would actually help buyers. For example, and I mentioned this in my last video, but one of the arguments that I'm seeing against promoted listings as well is that Poshmark is spending all of this time focusing on this feature that nobody really asked for, and also goes against a lot of what they've told us in the past. And instead they could be focusing on other improvements to the app that would actually help us sell more. For example, larger closets, they get locked out of sharing and they get put in like share jail. So people with like 10,000 listings, I wish I could get there one day, by the way. I have like 250 listings, so that's big. But these people, they can only share their closets sometimes once a day, and that definitely results in less visibility. Those are the kinds of closets that would definitely benefit from promoted listings. However, I feel like that's Poshmark definitely capitalizing on this weakness that they created themselves. Whereas if they just opened up the sharing jail and like didn't lock accounts for sharing too much, this could be solved in a free manner for sellers. It wouldn't take away from our profit margins. We are already paying 20% of our fees, and then we're gonna have to pay more depending on how much you allot for promoted listings. This is another thing that I think is really interesting, and we still don't have enough data, or maybe I'm just like, I don't know enough about how promoted listings works or how algorithms work, but not everything in your closet will be promoted or may be promoted. It definitely depends on how much money you allot to your week that you want to budget out for spending. It also depends on what people are searching for. So if you have all, like, this is just an example, but say you only sell shoes, right? And for some reason nobody's searching for shoes, it's not really going to help you that much because Poshmark isn't going to push your listings if nobody is searching for it, if that makes sense. There's definitely still a lot that Poshmark needs to learn, and that we need to learn after that. I shared on Instagram that I was part of the beta testing, and a lot of people asked why, because I definitely don't have a big closet. I only have about 250 active listings, so that doesn't qualify as a large closet. So I would highly recommend you guys to sign up for the wait list if this is something that you want to participate in, because you never know. They said they're going to try to reach different kinds of closets to get a good idea of how it affects different types of sellers. But if you are at least a Posh ambassador too, but you might have like less active listings, still sign up for the wait list just so that they know when they start rolling it out to more people that you are interested. Another interesting thing that I noticed is I don't see promoted listings when I'm looking for things on Poshmark. I've tried on my phone, I've tried on my laptop, on my iPad. I don't see promoted listings. I've looked for things and I never see the promoted banner on anything. So not only are they rolling this out to sellers to have the ability to promote their closet, but they're also rolling it out to buyers. And I think it's kind of crazy how like they're allowing me to promote my closet, but I don't get to see promoted listings. There are so many issues with Poshmark, trust me. I know. There have been so many changes to the company in the last couple years. I know that they've acquired some other companies like Suede One, which is going to help them enhance their AI to authenticate. They were purchased by that Korean company. I don't really know anything about it, so please don't come for me. And they're trying to push live selling. There are just a lot of changes, and Poshmark definitely has to adapt to those changes and adapt to the way that society wants to buy. I recently listened to this interview of Tracy Sun, who's one of the co-founders of Poshmark, and she was talking about just buyer behavior and customer behavior on Poshmark. That is her field of study. That is like what she does and what she focuses on. And she was talking about the evolution of how people buy, and things that they thought weren't gonna work out but ended up being great, and things that they thought were gonna be great that didn't end up working out. And it's just really interesting kind of seeing somebody from the higher ups and seeing what their mentality is and how they are tracking different things. Poshmark is definitely treated like a social media platform, more so than any other selling platform out there, like more than eBay, more than Mercari. I'd say Depop might be, but still you don't like share, you don't share items, they don't have like Posh and Sips and things like that. There are definitely ways that Poshmark leans into community aspect, and that leans into more of like the pathos or like the emotional reaction of customers, and it's kind of scary. Like it's kind of like, it's almost like borderline manipulative, but in sales I feel like all sales are, and that's such like a scary thought to have. That's like a whole other video, that's a whole other like sidetrack thing. But it is really interesting when you see how much the team of Poshmark really pays attention to how people feel and how different selling techniques can affect people's emotions and make them respond in a positive way by spending money, or in a negative way. And I know that a lot of sellers have had negative experiences with Poshmark because of the way that they seemingly neglect their sellers and seemingly neglect these requests that we have put out. But Poshmark is this massive company that looks at everyone as a whole. They don't really, I don't think, cater specifically to sellers. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, because their whole platform isn't just sellers. You guys have to remember that the Poshmark platform is supposed to be accessible for everyday people to just sell their stuff online. And then there's just a group of us who happen to have made that our whole career and our whole life. And that's great. I think that it's great that Poshmark allows us to do that. But you have to remember, like, Poshmark doesn't work for us. We technically, I mean, we don't work for Poshmark, but we are giving them money. And their platform is the reason why we're able to do everything that we can as sellers. As somebody who, like, is in the process of trying to like have my own website. I've tried in the past, and I didn't realize how much you have to put into it because I've been so spoiled by Poshmark and eBay and all of these platforms. You really don't appreciate the 20% that you have to give, because in the grand scheme of things, that's really not a lot for how much Poshmark does. And it is frustrating when these changes happen and it's like, oh my god, we have to dish out even more money, like we have to pay for even more. But even still, I feel like it is worth it because of the audience that we have, and there's still a lot of work that goes into getting our items sold and going into the algorithm and going into all of like the software updates and all of the branding and all of the shipping and just all of these little things that we don't even have to think about as sellers. So this is me, my honest opinion, and this is something that I always go back to when I do have these like kind of outbreaks of like anger or frustration because of changes. After I have some time to kind of sit with it and come back to it, I'm like, okay, you know what? Poshmark is doing their best. I understand that I am just a seller on the platform. In the grand scheme of things, I am not. They don't care, really. They could say that they care, but they don't really care if I were to leave the platform or if I were to not make sales, because I'm just one person. Yes, of course, they want to capitalize and make as much money as they can off of me by me selling my stuff, but like, they don't, I'm not that important. And I'm not trying to be like self-reprimanding or like self-degrading. Like, I know that I have value and all of that, and I'm sorry, this is getting into like kind of like a weird space, but at the end of the day, like, if Poshmark changes something, I have the choice to either try it out and see how it is, or move off the platform and try something else. Like, that is 100% up to me. Poshmark isn't forcing me to do anything. I willingly joined the beta program. I am willingly trying out these new things, and if I don't like it or if it doesn't work for me, then I'm going to choose to try something else. I just wish that more people would come at it with this kind of perspective of like, okay, you know what, Poshmark is doing this for a reason. They are obviously seeing whatever market trends are happening or new advice that their board is giving them to try things out, and there are reasons why they're trying these things out. They are putting a lot of money into creating these new softwares and creating these new things that are supposed to help us, because again, going back to it, Poshmark makes money when we make money. So they obviously want us to make money, and we have to trust that these things could potentially help if we are willing to be part of the growth aspect of it. So like this, the the beta testing. If you want to be a part of it, do it. Join the group to chat about your thoughts and give them feedback, because they'll listen to it. They'll see it, and whether or not they integrate it or they make other changes, it's up to them ultimately. But they wouldn't ask for our help if they weren't planning to make changes. This could also be me being naive or thinking the best of something, and that's me. That's just the way that I like to go about it. If you don't agree, that's okay. Again, I feel like I always just go back and forth, and again, next week when I do my next check-in, it could be a whole different ballpark again. They could have made a whole bunch of changes, and I could see a huge tick in sales, or I could still be at 0. I mean, I just looked at it right now, and I'm a little over 48 hours, and I still have made 0 sales from promoted listings. But I'm making sales. That doesn't mean my whole closet is down. I'm still definitely making sales. It's actually looking to be a great month for me. So I'm sticking through it. I'm gonna see how it goes, but I just wanted to make this video to share the update. If you guys have any more questions, let me know and I'll try my best to answer. And if you want to join the waitlist or if you want to learn more, I will leave all of those links down below. It's not a guarantee that you're going to be selected to join the beta program. When I posted this on Instagram, I had people telling me that they had like originally signed up for the beta testing of live shows, and to this day they still don't have access to live shows. So just kind of wait it out and see. Maybe message Poshmark on Instagram or something and let them know that you're interested. I think just getting known by Team Posh and trying to start a relationship with them could definitely help you get more opportunities when these kinds of programs happen. Anyway, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you are not already subscribed, make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for any more updates that I have on the whole Poshmark beta testing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! Thank you.